With a Second Amendment case before the United States Supreme Court, a bunch of anti-gun senators have decided to try to get a bill together and passed in order to subvert what the Supreme Court might rule. Where have we seen that before? Before I jump into it, I want to thank the sponsor of the video, and that's Blackout Coffee. Guys, as one of the owners of Blackout Coffee, I can tell you we have the best coffee, teas, and hot chocolates in the land, and I usually give you a 10% off coupon. It's GNG10 when you go to blackoutcoffee.com/GNG. However, our Black Friday sale is in effect, and we will give you 25% off our entire store with code BlackFriday25. Link is down below, blackoutcoffee.com/GNG. Everything is on sale for Black Friday. It won't last long, so head on down there now. You can pause the video, go get some coffee, teas, and hot chocolates. Big thank you to Blackout Coffee for being a sponsor of the channel. All right, guys, let's talk about this bill that's been reintroduced for several years, but now because of the Rahimi case, in which the Supreme Court is going to decide whether somebody on a restraining order, a civil restraining order, will lose their Second Amendment rights and become a prohibited person without proper due process. That's what this is about. I want to get this out there. I am not condoning domestic violence, whether it's man v man, man v woman, man v men and women, women v man, women v woman. There's so many combinations. I've seen a lot of it throughout my career. I'm not condoning it, but what I'm saying is that every American, no matter who they are, what they are, victim or perpetrator of anything, they deserve due process. It's in the Constitution. Let me show you this press release that these crazy senators put out, and I'll tell you a little bit about the bill, and we'll be right back. Okay, the press release says, U.S. Senate Majority Whip Dick Durbin and Senator Tammy Duckworth joined U.S. Senators Richard Blumenthal and Ron Wyden to introduce, or reintroduce, the Lori Jackson Nicolette Elias Domestic Violence Survivor Protection Act to protect domestic violence survivors from gun violence. The Lori Jackson Nicolette Elias Domestic Violence Survivor Protection Act would restrict those under emergency restraining orders from purchasing or possessing a firearm and would extend protections to domestic violence survivors who have been abused by their dating partners. The bill would also establish a new grant program to help state and local governments implement policies that keep firearms out of the hands of domestic violence perpetrators while they are subject to a temporary or emergency restraining order. That's a financial bribe program. These policies include requiring a domestic violence abuser to surrender or sell any firearm or ammunition in their possession, revoking their permit or license to purchase, possess, or carry a firearm or ammunition while the restraining order is in effect, even though they just said they could force people to sell them, and requiring a background check to be performed before any firearm or ammunition is returned to the person subject to the restraining order. The legislation would expand on a provision in the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act that denies firearm sales to dating partners with misdemeanor domestic violence convictions, and not just abusers who had been married to, lived with, or had children with their victim. Current federal law protects domestic violence survivors from gun violence by preventing their abusers from purchasing or possessing a firearm, but only once a court has issued a final restraining order. This leaves survivors unprotected exactly when they are in the most danger, when a domestic abuser first learns his or her victim has left and only an emergency restraining order is in place. Further, the current definition of intimate partner used to prohibit respondents to restraining orders from purchasing or possessing a firearm includes spouses, former spouses, people with a child in common, and cohabitants. However, there are many survivors of dating violence who were never married, do not live with their abuser, and have no children. Joining Durbin, Duckworth, Blumenthal, and Wyden in co-sponsoring the bill are U.S. Senators Bob Casey, Jeff Merkley, Jeanne Shaheen, Pat Murray, Sheldon Whitehouse, Mazie Hirono, John Fetterman, Bernie Sanders, Tammy Baldwin, Tim Kaine, Chris Coons, LaFonza Butler, Elizabeth Warren, Chris Van Hollen, Amy Klobuchar, Alex Padilla, and Chris Murphy. The bill is endorsed by Everytown for Gun Safety, Brady, Giffords, March for Our Lives, Sandy Hook Promise, Newtown Action Alliance, National Network to End Domestic Violence, National Domestic Violence Hotline, National Resource Center on Domestic Violence, and Jewish Women International. So what they're looking to do is to have something ready to go, to get signed, just in case the Supreme Court says everybody is afforded due process based on the Constitution, and taking someone's Second Amendment right away because of an allegation, because when someone is issued these restraining orders and it's not a final one issued by the court after hearings and due process, these are just allegations, and you don't lose your rights off of allegations. It's very serious when you take someone's rights away, and it has to be done by a court after proper hearings and due process and trials, etc. Jury of your peers, all that good stuff. What this is looking to do is to violate those rights, to say, you've had an allegation against you, we're taking your rights away because of feelings. Now that might anger some people, but the cold hard facts are, it is extremely easy to get a restraining order. One of the tactics by several attorneys across the country who deal with divorces is to, hey, let's quickly lodge a restraining order against them so that we can limit things and have this as a tool. And unfortunately, that's what it's used for, especially if that person has firearms. So I want you to be aware of what's going on. Call your senators and tell them not to support this act. You can call it the Lori Jackson Act, which is what it's been known as in the past, or the new name, which is the Lori Jackson - Nicolette Elias Domestic Violence Survivor Protection Act. Area code 202-224-3121 is the switchboard to the U.S. Capitol. You say, I would like to speak to my U.S. Senator. I live in blah, 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 and they will patch you over to their office where you can talk to their office representative and tell them, I don't want you to support this bill for the following reasons. The main one is you don't lose your rights in this country off of an allegation. There's no due process when it is a simple restraining order or an emergency restraining order because a judge has not gone through the due process requirements. It's just an allegation at that point, and we don't lose our rights at that point, okay? I know this is a hot topic, but this is something we need to decide where we are on this issue and act accordingly, because if we don't act accordingly, they're going to keep chipping away on our Bill of Rights until there's nothing left. And then there's only one way to take it back. Guys and gals, thank you for your time. Subscribe to this channel down below if you want to stay in the Second Amendment news area, because that's what I do. I took a couple days off. I was out training at Valor Ridge. Guys and gals, you need to go there. If you're anywhere near the Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia border, you need to check Reed and Rachel out at Valor Ridge. I'll have more about that in an upcoming video, but there was no service up in the mountains, and I was focused on doing what we were doing. So thank you for your time. I appreciate each and every single one of you. Be safe, stay vigilant, and carry a gun to keep you, your friends, your family, your community safe. That's what the Second Amendment is for. Doesn't matter what anybody feels. Doesn't matter what anybody thinks. The facts are the facts. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.